Next on Pink Elephant Foxtrot, Loud Hailer. The mainstream scientific community in the US can be likened to a flock of ostriches when it comes to the subject of UFOs. But bad things can happen when you bend over and leave your bottom exposed to the unknown. Many respected scientists, most notably Neil deGrasse Tyson, have chosen to ridicule and deny, burying their heads at the base of an evidentiary mountain that would be enough to convict a criminal in a court of law. So in this episode, we take a look at a series of videos from August and September of 2022 that captured something quite extraordinary, something that is not human in origin, something that should inspire any flightless bird to unbury their cranium. Because in this installment of Loud Hailer, Neil deGrasse Tyson gets his ass kicked. On the beautiful Triskaideka's day of August 13th, 2022, I was at a local park staring up at some trees when a flurry of motion in the sky caught my eye. There were several white, luminous objects at high altitude darting back and forth in multiple directions. Some were closer and moving slowly, but there were other objects much further up that were moving at very high rates of speed. It was hard to film because the commotion was happening quite close to the sun. Using a canopy of trees as a filter, I took the first in a series of videos of this phenomenon, but I soon discovered that there were actually two things going on at the same time. Closer to the ground, the air in the park became filled with puffballs that I was later able to identify as artichoke flower gone to seed. It wasn't until weeks later that a nagging feeling prompted me to re-examine those videos, and when I slowed them down, what I saw was quite curious. If we take a closer look at the video of the artichoke flower coming down from the sky, the motion of the faraway objects seemed to defy the laws of physics. In this sequence, an object rises from the bottom of the frame moving towards the trees, stops on a dime, goes in reverse, and then continues forward. If a conventional craft attempted that maneuver at that speed, the G-forces would kill any human occupants. In this second sequence from the falling flower video, watch the upper right part of the screen. The objects are moving so fast that I had to slow the speed down to 10%. You'll see a series of 3 quick flashes. The first is very faint. The next flash shows the object moving down and to the left, and we are starting to see a shape. In the third flash, you can see what appears to be a pyramid-shaped craft with a dome. In another video from August 13th, a flash of light enters from the bottom, moves up and to the right, and does a rapid loop before continuing out of frame. It happens so fast in real time, but becomes much more apparent at quarter speed. About 30 seconds later, another fast-flying object enters from the right of the frame and flies in a sine wave-shaped curve. Keep in mind that this is now playing back at 10% of normal speed, which demonstrates just how fast these objects are flying. The disc-shaped objects blink in and out of view and seem to be capable either of cloaking themselves or switching in and out of our dimension. Watch the lower center as one of these objects rises. It seems to expand and get closer before disappearing nearly completely, only to rematerialize out of nowhere. The more I studied these videos from August 13th, the more I realized that what I had captured could only be described as an interdimensional aerial ballet. Fleets of domed craft, nearly identical to the one filmed on November 13th, 2021, and larger cylindrical objects dart across the sky at incredible rates of speed, materializing and disappearing from out of nowhere. The speed of these craft and their ability to instantly appear and disappear into thin air is not their only mind-boggling aspect. The maneuvers they are capable of at these extreme speeds include complex loops, full stops, and hard right turns. Conventional jet aircraft cannot fly at these speeds, but if they could, these maneuvers would kill any human occupant. 3 weeks later, on September 3rd, it was as if these craft came knocking at my front door. On a beautiful sunny day, while in my backyard, the flashing lights in the sky returned. They were traveling at such a high rate of speed that I couldn't see much detail with the naked eye while I was filming. But when the speed is slowed down, what becomes apparent is that the discs don't fly in a linear fashion. They rotate at different angles and zigzag through the sky, disappearing and reappearing out of thin air like a flickering light bulb. And their maneuverability is breathtaking. In this clip, which had to be slowed down to quarter speed, a craft materializes and dematerializes on the right, shoots to the upper left of frame, and makes a rapid U-turn. Up until September 3rd, most of the objects I had filmed were at a distance, but for some reason, on that particular day, the occupants of these craft decided to make their presence on our planet quite unambiguous. Watch for a series of quick flashes in the upper part of the frame after the disc on the bottom flies off to the right. Don't blink because you'll never see it in real time. Here it is again at quarter speed and at 10%, and this domed, disc-shaped object is still moving so fast that it appears in only 3 frames. If we zoom in, frame 1 shows the disc materializing from thin air. Frame 2 shows the disc fully materialized, and frame 3 shows the disc disappearing back into thin air. Now, I'm the first to admit that there are 2 pink elephants regarding these videos. One is the artichoke flower, the other the possibility that the objects I captured were the product of some sort of reflection, like lens flare. Here is one of the earlier videos from August 13th that actually has lens flare. As you can see, it is large, green, and looks nothing like the fast-moving, white, luminous objects I filmed in the upper atmosphere. As far as the artichoke flowers, they are not known for flying in the upper atmosphere with multi-directionality that includes complex maneuvers at supersonic speed, and they don't manifest in the shape of a disc. With that in mind, there is one more clip from September 3rd that should hopefully convince any ostrich to stand up and take notice. At 1:59 p.m., I was filming the sky from my driveway when I captured this. Here it is 3 times in a row, looped at actual speed. Once again, don't blink or you'll miss it. Now here it is at quarter speed, at 10% normal speed, and at 5% normal speed. This domed, disc-shaped craft looks identical to the one I photographed on the evening of November 13th, 2021. This time the craft is visible in broad daylight for 8 frames, but what interests me most, and what should interest the ostrich community, is what is occurring in frames 0 and 8. In frame 0, the disc appears not so much out of thin air, but out of thick air. One can see a hint of motion in the sky just as it emerges from frames 0 to 1, and again when it disappears in frame 8. In previous episodes, I utilized a mashup of the scientific principle Occam's razor and the deductive reasoning of the fictional detective Sherlock Holmes. Occam insisted that the simplest explanation is usually the best, and Holmes stated that when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. You don't have to be Occam or Sherlock Holmes or a world-famous scientist to apply a little common sense to what you have just seen with your own eyes. Deduction number 1. The technology involved in being able to fly silently at supersonic speed and make instant full stops and right-angle turns indicates that these objects are not planets, stars, comets, asteroids, meteors, balloons, planes, helicopters, blimps, jet aircraft, satellites, artichoke flower, lens flare, or swamp gas. All of those are the impossible. Deduction number 2. These objects are intelligently controlled and are utilizing technologies that are far beyond anything human beings are capable of. Even if the rumors about Area 51 and back-engineered alien craft are true, it seems ludicrous to think that the most secretive branch of our government would be displaying such technology in broad daylight several weeks in a row over a highly populated area. This is where I have to step off. Perhaps I went a little too far with that whole ostrich thing. My bad. Sorry, Dr. T. But sometimes the pendulum has to be swung really hard in order for it to return to some sort of semblance of reasoned equilibrium. A full understanding of the UFO phenomenon, including what happens to us after we die, cannot be accomplished without the open-minded participation of the scientific community. Stanford's Dr. Gary Nolan is a good example of a scientist who has gone out on a limb and put their reputation on the line, all because he started with the semblance of equilibrium that the evidence for the UFO phenomenon requires. It is the most important scientific and spiritual mystery facing mankind, and understanding it fully could literally save our species and the planet. I know the answer will not be elementary, but can you at least admit the game is afoot?